All right. We're going to kick things off today. Thanks for coming out, Men's Basketball Media Day. We're going to start with Coach Jake, have some questions, and then we'll head down to the McLeod Center floor. If you guys need any help grabbing a player or a coach or somebody on staff, just let me know, and I'll pull them aside for you. So with that, Coach Jake.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everybody, for being here again. Ready to get it going, huh? Just a couple notes, and then I'll open it up for questions. We can get our stuff done up here, and then, as Nick said, we'll get down and see the guys and take care of the rest of it. I want to start with, we've got two new guys on staff that when you get a chance, obviously a lot of familiar faces here with most of us. When you get a chance, so introduce yourself or say hi again to Mark Sonnet, a former player who was a freshman on that 2010 Sweet 16 team, a member of that team that went in the Hall of Fame here this fall, and great to have him back with us. Was a terrific player for us, and has taken John Little's spot as our video coordinator now, and is off to a really good start. He's been on the job for 10 days, 2 weeks now that Mark's been on the job. And then Ike Hermer has been hired as our director of operations. Ike started last week and comes to us from the University of Minnesota. And is off and running. Just on the job here for a couple of days, but off to a great start. And so when you get a chance, say hello to them, introduce yourself, get to know those guys just a little bit while you're here today. Notes on Austin Fife and Taiwan Pickford. They were, of course, a big topic of discussion at Valley Media Day. Austin is doing well. He's had a really good stretch here. Our practices at the end of July, he felt good and continued to work himself back into shape, and had a good trip over in Italy. And Taiwan, same thing. He's healthy all summer. He's been healthy this fall. And so both of those guys, from a health standpoint, are really doing well. And I would tell you that Austin's best workouts and practices have been in the last 10 days. He's had a couple really good ones here in the past week, but the last 10 days his conditioning has started to get to the point where he can run the floor and move and do the kinds of things that he's capable of. And so great to have those two guys healthy this fall. Our incoming recruiting class with Antoine Kimmons, a point guard from Tartan, with Noah Carter, with James Betts. All three of those guys, as they have been all summer, as there were practices before we took that trip and on that trip, and now again here in the fall, all three of those guys are heavily in the mix every day, working to find their spot and finding some ways that they can contribute to us and find a spot in our rotation. So all three of those guys will continue to do that as we look forward to our November 5th opener. Derek Krogman, Evan Gogger, Cole Henry, those three guys will redshirt. That was the plan with Evan and with Derek during the recruiting process. Cole Henry had an injury at the end of May that he is still rehabbing from. The rehab is going very well. He's probably a month out of getting back into practice. And we had a lot of conversations with Cole about redshirting this year during the recruiting process, so prior to the injury that he sustained at the end of May. So all three of those players will redshirt this year. And then Logan Wolf, who is on our football team, is with the football team every day and practicing with those guys. When the football season is over, Logan will come over and join us at practice. From a scheduling standpoint, this weekend is our turn to go down to Des Moines for the IBCA clinic. We have an opportunity, and it's usually once every 4 years. Sometimes every third, sometimes it's every fifth. But we are with our team down at the coaches clinic in Des Moines. There are right around 400 coaches, give or take a few. Iowa high school coaches that are in attendance at the IBCA clinic, and so always a great opportunity for us to take our guys down there and show them off a little bit. And we will practice down there on Saturday from 10 to 11:30. When we're done, we'll get things wrapped up, and then we're headed to Minneapolis. We've got a closed scrimmage against North Dakota State on Sunday. We'll do that, as I mentioned, up in Minneapolis. And then what would be the following Saturday, we'll be back here at home in the McLeod Center for a closed scrimmage against South Dakota State. Last year we played 2 exhibition games. Most years, as I think we've played 1 exhibition game and we've done 1 closed scrimmage. This year we're gonna play 2 closed scrimmages and feel good about the teams that we're playing. North Dakota State returns almost everybody from their NCAA tournament team. South Dakota State returns a number of guys, and as we know, they've been very good. So, looking forward to those 2 scrimmages, and then our opener Tuesday, November 5th against Old Dominion. And I think you would remember playing them twice last year early in the season. they went on to, I believe, win Conference USA, and they've got a good group back. Just a terrific way to open our season. So when you get a chance to talk with people about that opener, let's see if we can't get some folks in here and kick the season off with the big crowd for us. So with that, I would start and take your questions.
You got 6 seniors on this team. Should that add to kind of the expectations and excitement around this team with that many seniors on the squad?
Yeah, the excitement for sure. With the 6, so there's 10 guys that are back. You've got the 6 seniors that you're asking about, Garrett, the 2 juniors with Ty and with Trey, and then our 2 sophomores with Austin and with AJ. So you've got a group of 10 guys, that are back. We're without Wyatt Lohaus, who was a senior last year. We're without Miles Wenzine, who was a senior last year. But return, everybody else from that group. And so from that standpoint, yes, there should be, and I think there is a lot of excitement. Not just with our team, but and people that I'm talking to, people that I'm seeing. In terms of expectations, as we talk about every year, those really haven't changed for a long time, and they won't. They're the same again this year. The expectation to come to practice and get better, and then the goals of being in the hunt for a championship and playing in the NCAA tournament and winning NCAA tournament games. These guys have those same goals. And what I would tell you about the 6 seniors, I think it really adds to the excitement. You can feel the experience at practice. Practice has been more competitive because of the depth of our roster and the experience that we've got this year, and that's the best way to get better. Is to fight it out at practice.
We'll talk about the advantage of kind of senior leadership and senior experience, playing so long in your system and knowing its way around the valley.
Well, it's always been important on a couple of fronts, and I would go back to the practice. As guys get older, because we're talking to them all the time about each day we've got to work hard to get a little bit better. And as you get to be a junior and as you get to be a senior, and I think in particular in your senior year, that really hits home with you. You're able to you can almost count the days, until your college career is done. And at the end of the day, if you're going to be in the hunt for a championship and you're going to play in the NCAA tournament, you've got to come every day and you've got to get better. And I think seniors understand that better than underclassmen do. And so having 6 of them that are in that situation starts with the practice part of it and how important that is. And then when you get to games, it's nice to have guys that have been in situations before. A number of these guys, whether it's Isaiah or Spencer or Luke, the roles that they played last year. Justin, played a very important role for us last year. So they've been in game situations, and that certainly matters.
How similar does Austin maybe need to be to Luke in that free throw line spot of the new offense, and how beneficial can it be for him to maybe be different in that spot as well?
Yeah, their games are different, and I think that's a real positive for us. Luke does such a good job with his communication. He does such a good job with his understanding. His passing was very good for us last year, but with the change that we made to our offense, that position is really that position is the quarterback of what we're doing now. Once we get into the court, and Luke's ability to run it and to get guys moved around to spots where they can be efficient was very important. Now Austin, he's got some of those same qualities. He doesn't have the experience. Luke's got a year under his belt now, so he doesn't have that same kind of experience. But he's able to do some things in terms of when he's rolling to the basket, or if we and hit him on that roll to catch it and finish. If we take it off, we throw the ball behind him to be able to throw it behind him and then throw it into him on a post up. His ability to run the floor, his ability to rebound the basketball, and then he's just simply from a size standpoint, he's 245 pounds, and Luke's 220 pounds. So defensively, there's some things that he's able to do just physically that Luke isn't. So, Luke's a guy that's got to rely on his smarts. He's got to rely on his instincts, and those are great and tremendous value for our basketball team. And now you throw a guy like Austin back in there who's got some of those same qualities, but physically he's able to bring some different things to the mix.
Coach, how do you plan on utilizing that 5 position this year? Obviously, returning some experience with Luke and Justin. Are they kind of matchup plays then behind Austin, or do you this team kind of a three-man rotation?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Right now, not having, and I just mentioned it with some of the coaches the other day. I don't know that we've, as I've thought about our teams, I don't know that we've had three guys at a spot. And we do at that center position now for the reasons that you mentioned. Luke being the starter and Justin had some very good games for us down the stretch and valuable experience for both those guys. So those two guys are much better than they were a year ago, and that's great for our team. Austin is the best physically of the three of them. So we feel like we've got, for different reasons, three guys that can hold down that position. And so we'll have to see how practice, how things sort themselves out in practice, number one, with the intention of playing all three of those guys and feel like up to this point, all three of them have earned and shown that they can help us get done what we need to get done at that spot. And then some of it would be some matchup stuff, but I would point you to the first two. What happens in practice from now until the start, and how things sort out from a rotation standpoint based on how they practice.
How do you see A.J. Green improving after a really solid freshman year?
Yeah, he's been great. He's continued to do the things that he's always done in terms of getting in and working on his game. The biggest changes we've seen from AJ probably in terms of his communication and growing in that aspect of things from a leadership standpoint, communication being an important part of that. And then, look, defensively, where he is today in comparison to where he was a year ago when we were in this room, night and day. The experience of playing an entire season and playing the number of minutes that he played, playing in the situations that he played in. And it got much better the last 6 weeks. He was a much different defender and a much better defender. He's taken that another step forward. So we'll see it at that end of the floor. And then I've really been proud of him and seen it in terms of his communication, in terms of his leadership and taking a step forward. And sometimes, when you've got 6 seniors on your roster, sometimes that can be a little bit tricky when you're a younger player. But our guys understand. They see him in the gym every day. They understand how hard he works at it. They understand that he's our best player, and they understand that he needs to be involved in the leadership of our team. And but from his standpoint, like I said, the two areas where I've seen probably the biggest improvement or the biggest growth is the defensive end, and then in terms of his communication. Yeah, it's exciting. He's and the great thing about him is he no matter what it is, whether it's coming in and watching some film of himself or other players, if he's reading articles, if he's again video stuff, his individual workouts, things he's doing at practice, okay, what to get better? What's this guy doing? Is that something I can add to my game? I mean, he's always asking that question of himself. What do I need to do to get better? And it's the great thing for AJ and really good for our program is there isn't anything that gets in the way. Once he figures out, okay, I got to work on this a little more, I got to watch a little more film, or I need to hit this aspect so I can improve. There's nothing that's going to stand in his way from putting in the time necessary to improve in those areas. So he's better today than he was a year ago, and when I stand here next year, I'm going to say, look, he's quite a bit better than he was last year. I mean, that's just the type of young guy that he is. And like I said, it's awesome to see for him individually. It's also great for our program. But yeah, he's better than he was a year ago.
A little bit in the previous answer when you talked about some of the situations he was in last year, and as a freshman, and getting clutch shots like in that game against Loyola here, late at the end of the game, and then obviously in the NBC tournament championship game with a chance to push you in the NCAA tournament. How much does experience in those situations and being a guy that you relied on, how much does that help him?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's a there is a stark difference between doing that in high school and doing that at this level. And to be able to go through all of those things, like our team went through the roller coaster and then some last year, and so for AJ and for the rest of our team to have those experiences have already shown up in our practices, and our team is much better because of those experiences. For him specifically, for AJ, like I said, it's different doing it at this level, than it is in high school. Now, the one thing that isn't different is, you're either wired that way to make those shots, or you work your tail off so that when those shots come your way, you make them, or you're both, right? And he's got both, right? So that part of it isn't different. The competition level, of course, is different, and the magnitude of some of those things is a little bit different. So to be able to do that as a true freshman last year for us is, something that I know it continues to give him confidence, but also for us and as a group to know going forward that not only can Spencer, a guy that's going to make those shots and has done it, and maybe another guy or two that have been in those situations. Spencer would be the one that comes to mind, but AJ now has proven that he can do it, and that's important for us.
You talked about it a little bit after that tournament game that you felt like sort of late in the season, the steps you guys took forward, the team that you were at the tournament down there in St. Louis was really who you felt like you guys were. With the roster continuity that you have coming into this year, do you feel like you're just building off of where you were there instead of having to do some resets?
Yeah, in terms of the number of guys that we've got back, the experience on our roster, the depth of our roster, adding some talented guys, so practice is more competitive. And then, as I mentioned, there were a number of experiences, and a lot of them as the season went on, they got more and more positive, and some things you can really grow from and gain confidence from and take with you as you head into the next year. But there were a ton of things in November and December and even early January. I mean, there were so many things that we learned, about ourselves individually, about our team, and our Wyatt and Miles did an unbelievable job, and I talked about it a lot at the end of last year. And those were two guys that lived in the gym. I mean, they were in there all the time, and that continues to be important for this team, that aspect of it, and pushing how much we can get done each day.
What most excites you about this freshman class? It's kind of the who's who of Iowa Cups.
Yeah.
Best of the best last year.
Yeah, that part of it, we really like. Getting our hands on another handful of guys from the state of Iowa. That obviously has been extremely important for us, extremely important for our program, to have those guys playing for us. And then Antoine Kimmons, coming from Tartan High School. Mark, of course, played at Tartan. Coach Crawford played at Tartan. And Kajo, Eric Coleman. So he's coming from a place that we're very familiar with and guys that have done very well for us. So I think that part of it is exciting for us. Within this group, it's got a good mix of size and mobility, guys that can score the ball. So yeah, it's a group that we're excited about.
I noticed that Noah Carter's listed as a combo forward. What is he? Is that like a small four, a big three? Like what is his skill set bringing to this team?
That might be the hardest question I get today about what position or what type of player is Noah Carter. He's just a jack of all trades, and I mean that in a good way. Yeah, he's not a power forward. He's not a small forward. He's just he's somewhere in between there. And there's not a lot of guys like that, whether it's on our roster or other rosters. A guy with, he's 6'4", 6'4.5". He's 235 pounds and handles the ball a little bit. He makes threes, very comfortable scoring on the block. He's got good athleticism. He's just got a lot of tools, and he's willing to get in the gym and work on his game. And he's unique in terms of position.
Noah Carter, a guy you're going to play as a true freshman?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Rick, Antoine at the point guard position, Noah, and James Betts are the three freshmen that are in the mix every day. Yep, and anticipate that those three guys will be playing. Yep.
What have you seen out of James Betts, and how do you plan on utilizing him?
Yeah, he's a big physical guy, I mean, he's able to hold his own with those guys right now. We talk about Luke, we talk about Justin, we talk about Fife. James, for a true freshman, is able to hold his own physically. He's a strong, mobile, athletic. And the thing that he does really well for a guy that size is make three-point shots. And we've talked about our offense a little bit. We've talked about it more in terms of Luke and running that offense, having a great understanding, a great feel, being able to get that thing side to side. We've talked about Austin rolling to the basket or posting up. What James brings when he's at that center position is a guy who can really make threes. He can really shoot the basketball, and then for a young guy, he's physical enough. He's not afraid to bang around, and so physically he's able to handle himself a little bit. And for all three of those guys, I think they're in a the situations for those freshmen are different every year. AJ came in and earned that starting spot and was our starter the entire year. We've had other guys in that spot. We've had some freshmen come in. Mark did not start for us as a freshman, but played an extremely important role on that Sweet 16 team, coming off the bench for us and had some big games as a freshman and happened to be coming off the bench. And so wherever it lands, and right now with these three guys, I feel like they're in a great situation in terms of having the 6 seniors and the other 4 guys, the 10 guys back that we talked about. They've got some guys that they're playing against in practice that have experience. And I think it's great for those guys as they prepare themselves to whatever role they find themselves in. Practice is a really good spot for them right now because of the experience that we have in there.
How do you plan on kind of utilizing Ty Pickford here this year? I know last year he battled that shoulder, wasn't able to take 3-point shots. They moved the line back this year. Is the perimeter shot part of his game, or what type of role do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. He kept. Not only was the shoulder late in the year, but as I've looked at our practice plans from last year and thinking about where Ty was at a year ago, the 2 injuries that he sustained, the one at the end of May, and then just getting back, kind of late August, early September, and then the injury to the foot, which held him out for another 8 weeks. It's just he missed the entire off season. By the time he was healthy and moving around, we were playing games, and he wasn't. His conditioning wasn't where it would normally be. He didn't have any of the court time that you would normally have. That's a long time to go without it. So it was a different year from that standpoint. And what we need from Ty, and I've talked to him quite a bit about it, is he and Isaiah are our 2 best defenders. And that's an area that Ty needs to take a ton of pride in, is being a high-end defender for us, because he's very capable of it, and he showed that at times toward the end of the year last year. And then offensively, how many plays can he make that impact the rest of the guys? Whether that's driving it and getting 2 feet in the paint, whether that's a back cut, whether that's an offensive rebound. Like, there are things, those 3 being part of it, there are things that he does at a really high level. And no matter what your role is, no matter what your job is, the things that you are good at, the things that you can help our team play better, those are the ones you need to be taking pride in. And you need to be doing those things the best you can every single day, so that we can build our team around what guys are, what they do best. And certainly shooting the 3-point shot, making some threes is going to be a part of his game. Yeah, and he needs to be in there every day working on it, so that he has the ability to make threes when we're playing. But again, the stuff that he does best, offensive rebound, being active, back cut, getting his feet in the paint, he's a very good passer. Like, there's all kinds of things that he does at a high level, and that's where he needs to impact our team.
You hear in sports sometimes about, whether it's football or basketball, a year or 2 of running an offense that's new usually equals some sort of leap forward. Do you expect that you'll be able to watch film early in the year and be like, this is definitely year 2 of running this offense?
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've seen that some already. We saw it in Italy, and the competition was different, right? In the 3 games that we played overseas, but we did see that part of it. Our offense is. Last year at this time we were still talking about exactly what we were gonna, what it was gonna look like, and how much of it we were gonna put in. Again, going back, I'm looking at our practice plans and able to see what parts of it we were putting in and how we were putting them in. And if those are here, Cole, we're over here or up here already. We're well past those initial stages, and to the point where our guys have got they've got an understanding of why we are doing things. What reads we need to be making. Defensively, when an individual defender or a team makes this play, this is what I'm looking for. Like those, we wouldn't have had any of those things a year ago today. because our guy, it was still before the first year of running it. So, yeah, we've seen that already and expect that that'll be one of the things that will help us early in the season this year. Instead of implementing a new offense, we are in, as you termed it in your question, we're in year 2 of it, and we've already seen some real differences.
You played AJ off the ball a decent amount last year.
Yep.
Wyatt gave you the ability to do that. Spencer, now you got a young man in Antoine Timmons who
Yep.
seems like a pure point guard. Does that give you the ability to move AJ off the ball more? And even if it does, do you intend to?
Yes, he will. He'll be off the ball. I don't know in terms of number of possessions or how it would compare to last year. I guess I'm not at all concerned with how it compares to last year. I'm always concerned with how do we best put our team together, right, in a given year. And so if that means AJ is playing the point 100% of the time, then that's what's going to happen. If that means it's 50-50, then that's what's going to happen. Now, it's going to be somewhere in between there, okay? So he will play off the ball. And Spencer is able to move over and play the point as he did last year at times. And then Antoine does. Antoine brings us a different kind of point guard. He's a little bit faster, able to get past guys, able to get himself into the paint, do some things that way. He's a better on-ball defender. Comes in as a better on-ball defender and able to put some pressure on ball handlers. So there's some things that Antoine does that Spencer and AJ either don't do or don't do quite as well. And then one of the things that we think he's going to be able to do is, as I said, get himself into spots where he can make the game just a little bit easier for AJ and for Spencer. For both of those guys. Can he do the kinds of things where he's able to find those guys some shots, where they're just sliding on a three-point line, catching and shooting, as opposed to them handling the ball and having to create some things that way. So we'll see a mix of those 3 guys. AJ is our starting point guard. Spencer right now is starting at the other guard position. Antoine would be coming off the bench if we had a game tonight. But we will see any kind of combination of those 3 guys. We haven't practiced much with those 3 guys on the floor together. They could certainly play together. We haven't practiced with that lineup yet. Obviously, Isaiah and Taiwan are guys that are going to be, they're going to be on the floor and they're going to play for us. So, but I like the combination of Spencer, AJ, Antoine. Yeah, they really complement each other well. All 3 of them. I will say this about Antoine: he's competitive, and he hasn't backed down from Spencer or from AJ when we've practiced, and that's been great for everybody. It's been great for those 3 guys, and it's been great for our team.
How big do you see this rotation going? Looks like you got a lot of people.
Yeah, with 9 or 10, I would say, Rick. When you probably to 10, when you with Luke, Fife, and Justin at that center position. When you throw those 3 guys in there, and then you got 7 other guys, probably, I would say 10. Yeah.
The three-point line being moved back, how do you see the guys adjusting to that? And then the freshmen that will play that now they're shooting from the deeper 3, how are they handling it?
Yeah, they've look, big picture, guys that are good shooters. It hasn't impacted them. So our best shooters: Spencer, AJ, Trey. Noah Carter's a very good three-point shooter. But the returners, the 3 that I mentioned, our 3 best three-point shooters, it hasn't impacted those guys. It's not something that has changed the way they think or their ability to make them at the same percentage, or in some cases, because those guys have worked at it and they're better this year. I could see them shooting an even better percentage. Once you get past the better shooters, whether they're on our team or somebody else's team, it's going to have. I think it's going to have some impact on those guys. And all that, all I've told our guys is just get in the gym and work. Whether that's Isaiah or on down the line for us, you just get in there and shoot shots. You got to get in there and work, and that isn't anything different than what we've told our guys in the past. But with the line going back a little bit for those guys that aren't Spencer, AJ, Trey, you got to put the time in, so that it doesn't impact our offense in a negative manner. And they've done a good job of that. Where there is the 2 areas where we feel like it's, at least initially, going to have the most impact for us is a little more space on the floor with getting Fife back. Having a guy when he's rolling to the basket, having a guy that we can throw the ball to on the block. When you go down and help now, you've got a little bit farther to go to get back to Spencer, AJ, Trey, whomever it might be. So that space on the floor the longer three-point line gear. I think that will be one of the areas that we feel like can help us. And then the other one that we just don't know enough about yet is defensively for us, what's that do exactly? And what I just referred to for us offensively, we're going to play against teams that can throw it inside and that have shooters surrounding them. So we're going to have to cover more space on the floor. So some of those questions defensively for us are yet to be answered, but we do like it from an offensive standpoint. And in particular with getting a guy like Fife back in the lineup, he's got more of a presence rolling to the basket and more of a presence when you throw it to him on the block than what Luke or what Justin would have.
What's it going to take for the Valley, if it can, be a multi-bid league again?
Win, right? You got to win. You got to win.
How much? I mean, if you guys, does that require whoever it is going 8-1 in their non-con or no less than 7?
Yeah, it more about who you're playing, right? I mean, that's so. I think we could look at all 10 schedules right now and we could pick out which ones, right? So whether we've got 5 or 6 of them, and we've got some good ones, and Drake's got 5 or 6 of them, and this team's got 4 or 5. That we can look at them right now and we can pick out the games that we're talking about. You've got to win those games, and so that when you get into conference play, you've got hopefully 3, but you'd like to have 4 or 5 teams that are somewhere between whatever the lowest number is and 100. Right? That's the way. You've got to get 4, 5, 6 teams somewhere under 100, and you hopefully get 2 of them down there between 25 and 50. Or the only way to do that, right, is to win the games that against those teams. And now, as we know, those opportunities there just aren't a lot of them. So the way that we need to get them is to play well enough in November and December so that when we're playing each other in January and February, we're playing against teams that are, whether they're 78 or they're 62 or they're, right, we got to have teams down there when we start conference play. So you got to win the ones that you get cracks at. Yeah, that's the only way, right?
What do you feel is the biggest challenge this group needs to overcome to find growth from last season?
Oh, I think, well, I don't think, I know. Day to day, man, you got to get in here and work. That's as simple as I can, and as complicated as I can state it. You got to come in here and you have to compete at practice. This roster is better built to do that with the depth of the roster and the experience, as I've touched on a little bit here this afternoon. Practice is more competitive because of those things. But at the end of the day, and back to Gary's question about the 6 seniors, like they got to come in here every day and play their tails off. They got to fight for stuff, whether it's 1-on-1, which we do a lot of, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, when we do scrimmage. Like you got to come in here and fight for it on a daily basis. I talked to Coach Glass yesterday or 2 days ago, and talked about a lot of stuff. And we got done talking through probably a half hour of stuff, and he said, "Hey, just get him to work hard every day. Get them to come in there and work hard every day. That's the best chance you got, no matter what team you're talking about, no matter what year you're talking about." And that's always the way that we've approached it. Is how much can we get out of each day? And he said, look, if you do A work every day, you got a pretty good chance of getting an A when you need to. You do C work every day, you're probably going to get a C when that test shows up, right? I mean, it's no different than what you come in here and you work. You got a chance to do well when it's game night. You come in here and you kind of go through the motions just a little bit, or you don't focus the way you need to focus, you're going to have some trouble in some games, and it usually shows up against the good teams, right? The good teams they're the ones that have been getting after it each and every day. So, I mean, that's the whole deal. And these guys have gotten better at it, but they're not there yet. I mean, that's their challenge, is to get in here and fight every day. Against each other on the practice court so that we can get better.
What was the thought with doing the 2 closed scrimmages and not an open exhibition game?
Yeah, the way the non-conference schedule was coming together and the way it ended up falling, we've got 5 home games in November. Last year we had very few in November and December, so I felt like we felt like the 2 exhibition games would at least get us out on the court there and get the fans a chance to get in there and see us a little bit before we went through our the non-conference portion of the schedule. Where this year we've got 5 home games in November, so we got a chance to be in there quite a bit to kick off the year. And then both those teams are very good. So we'll get on this coming Sunday and then the next Saturday back to back weeks. We're going to play against 2 good teams, and there's some real benefit to that, to playing against 2 Division I teams as we get ready for Old Dominion in that opener. Now, anybody else?
What are your thoughts about being picked to finish third place in the Valley?
I don't know that I saw it earlier today when it came out. I think that thing's about right. And most years it seems about right as you get started. At the same time, very few years does it end. Whether we're picked first, third, sixth, I'm not talking about this year. Very few years does it end the way it looks today. Last year, a good example with Missouri State and Drake. New team, new coaches, new teams. And they were both running in the top 3 or 4 and a chance to win it, all year after being picked toward the bottom. And one of the things that's changed a lot, guys, is the grad transfer, the transfer itself in college basketball. Those two, you can change your team in a hurry. And Missouri State's done a great job of that. Drake's done a good job of that. Some other teams in our league have done a terrific job with the grad transfer and the transfer stuff. And so teams are changing faster. I know Evansville had a couple really good players sitting out. And so today your team can change dramatically. 20 years ago, without the grad transfer, the transfer stuff wasn't as prevalent. You couldn't change your team overnight. And so I don't know that the polls, specific to us, I think the team, that the way that's laid out, it's probably pretty close. But again, there's going to be guys, whether they're grad transfers or transfers that our league hasn't seen yet, that teams can change fast right now. Anybody else? All right, we'll see you down on the court.